I want all Samoans to know that our constitution is our supreme law in Samoa. Will Samoa resist conquest or fall like the Aborigine, the Apache and the Maori? We know that unquestioning obedience creates a race of slaves. William T. Vollmann, in his book Rising Up and Rising Down, offers the following steps in discovering the truth. Step 1. Ask yourself what is really happening. Think as clearly as you can. Step 2. Listen to the views of others, talk to witnesses, understand why people do what they do, and try to understand the concepts of happiness and suffering. Step 3. Look into history for similar events that have occurred and what has been learnt by historians and scholars. Step 4. Look to see whether the person or company or government is acting in service. Vollmann says that he who helps not, cares not. He who cares not possesses no right to guide others' lives. Step 5. As you learn and understand, more change your views to reflect your greater wisdom. Step 6. Work out in any situation what factors or events or statements have nothing to do with your search for the truth. In other words, don't get distracted. Samoans need only obey those who truly care about them. I believe that what is really happening in Samoa is that we are in the checkmate phase of a class war. The Human Rights Protection Party is changing society through legislation to create a class of super wealthy. The Land Titles Registration Act 2008 is unconstitutional, unchristian and undemocratic. It removes the rights to land from 98% of the population. The Water Resources Management Act 2008 seeks to take the water from its traditional owners by arguing, we know best, do as we say. Just because the law will allow us to abuse you, that does not mean that we will. Trust us, we are your leaders. Imagine if the super wealthy control the land and water, even unlawfully, and the people resist. The Police Powers Act 2007 enables the PM and head of state to use foreign military against Samoans for a public purpose. Men with their faces covered using any force necessary against the Ainga Samoa. Immune from prosecution, so any who oppose them are called criminals. If you say to a policeman about to force you off your land, but the government said it would never force you off your land, he will say, the law says I can, I have my orders. If he is a visiting specialist, he can murder you in self-defence, take your land and property if those are his orders. If you resist, you're at risk of being called an outlaw. Now, if the historian William T. Vollmann examines history and considers the following statements true, then a person who loves their country and does not wish to become a slave might think carefully about what he says. Every society must have a mechanism to prevent its leaders destroying the people. You see, some men would sell Samoa for money. If they can buy your vote, then they can use that power once in government to earn billions more. If money is their god, they have no place leading Samoa, or do they? Our leaders cannot serve the interests of foreign powers at our expense. If they have borrowed hundreds of millions, then open the books and show us in detail where it went. But understand this, the traditional rights of Ainga under the Whā Samoa have never been available for bargaining. Our leaders have no authority to weigh our family property up against their own interests. Do they hate me for thinking about right and wrong? You see, every member of our race is entitled to scream at the top of his or her lungs if he sees death or destruction coming upon the family. If our leaders are being mind-controlled against our interests by foreign powers, by the devil, or just plain greed, then common sense says that the survival of our race is more important than hurting their feelings, and I am a patriot to continue to plead and to pray. I challenge anyone to say that Samoans in Samoa and worldwide should have less rights than those contained in the Declaration of Samoan Rights under the Whā Samoa, dated 20 June 2008. I am not being cheeky or whiapoko by bringing these matters to the government's attention, because my customary land rights and those of every other Samoan are affected. Every Samoan family will suffer. All but the high chiefs will have to bow down, as these Matai will have taken the wealth of their families for themselves alone. This is not the Whā Samoa. This is the way of evil. Does LPM know that Samoans from around the world send hundreds of millions of tālā every year as tautua to preserve their family relationships, their connection to titles, and their customary land rights? Is it fair that their tautua is ignored? Has the Human Rights Protection Party changed the constitution and laws to further its own interests? Have they become not servants but overlords? Does the government force its will upon the people? Does it make itself rich at the expense of the people? Are the people becoming poorer as a result of HRPP activity? Is the state restricting the rights and liberties of the people, reducing them to slavery? Do people feel threatened, not safer, under the government? Can the people peacefully remove a government if it threatens to permanently take the people's natural resources? Or has the government created hidden mechanisms to keep power and reduce the people to economic slavery? You see, tell me this. Has the government set itself in permanent power? Does it refuse to discuss or debate serious issues affecting the welfare of the nation? Does it have no sympathy for the people? Is it acting to permanently damage the rights of those governed? Is there any way of correcting these leaders before they do permanent damage to the resources of the nation? Are the majority being victimised by a governing minority? Does the HRPP seize greater power in bursts of speed to permanently deprive the majority of fundamental rights and freedoms? Has it used bribery to win elections? And is it acting questionably to endanger the good of the majority? If the HRPP are a small part of Samoan activity, of Samoan society, who act selfishly and are opposed to the interests of society, then Samoans have a duty to ask questions. I am not whiapoko or cheeky to demand truth, justice, good governance and transparency. These are minimum standards required to govern us. No more can politicians count on growing rich at the expense of the people. That is not why you are there. Because Parliament sits in silence and is unable or unwilling to protect the family, it cannot outlaw those who stand for the good of all. I'm Moa Whaleauto, and I will speak for you and to you again further.